Hi, I'm Diane Woodall, and I want to share with you my method for making a truly square cube bead. We had written a tutorial for this bead in the 2011 November issue of the Soda Lime Times, but this is one of those beads that is best seen in a video. I'm going to start by winding on a footprint as wide as the final bead, marvering it, and then melting it back up to a football shape. The base bead here is medium amethyst. Next, I'll wind a twisty around the base bead. And this twisty is a complex cane that I made using a base of periwinkle blue and a variety of light and dark transparent purples. This is one of the twisties that I like to use when I'm making hearts for beads of courage. I just continue to wind it around, and when I've reached the opposite end, I pull gently so that I don't wind up with a big blob on the edge. And then I try to tuck that in with my Karina magic wand so it looks as smooth as possible. Your final bead will be better if your base bead is nice when you start. Just give it a little bit of heat, melt the twisty in, and shape your base bead. A thick casing layer works best for a cube, and I like to use the most optically clear that I can get. In this case, it's double helix Zephyr. And the method I like best for casing is to melt a gather of clear on the end of a rod and then wind it on in one motion. And then I come back and quickly fill in the edge that I've missed. You get fewer bubbles this way. And now I'm pushing the clear toward the mandrel. I'm moving just the layer of clear so I don't disturb the pattern beneath it. I only move a tiny bit of glass at a time using the point of the magic wand. Just the clear. And then I flipped the mandrel, and I'm going to do the other side, same way as I did the first side. This is one distinct advantage of making beads in the middle of the mandrel. You can always work from the good side. So once you have all your casing glass in place, you're going to apply heat, bring the bead back to a donut shape. For a cube, you don't want to start with a round bead or it will press into a rectangle. A donut shape is best. About a 14 or 15 millimeter donut will create a 12 millimeter cube. Start forming the bead by pressing the sides with my parallel mashers. It forms the basic cube. That did the sides, and now I'm going to start working on the ends. So you can see we've created a basic cube shape, but this is not nearly square enough. We have more work to do. From this point on, defining the cube shape further will be done with a series of micro movements. Gently moving the glass just a tiny bit at a time, pressing with the parallel mashers and then with the marver. Don't apply too much heat or the base bead will just become round again. It's a balancing act between making the glass pliable enough to move but not so pliable that you lose the square shape. You actually can hear the metal touching the glass when you do this because your glass is not molten. It's just pliable enough to move a tiny bit at a time. So that's step one. It's square, but it's not square enough. The secret to making a truly square cube is to add glass to the corners. you're never going to be able to press that glass into the corners. So I discovered years ago that instead of making the glass do what it didn't want to do, I would let it do what it did want to do. And I would play by its rules. Since I couldn't press it into the corners, I would just create the corners by putting more glass there. And then from this point on, you're just going to apply the same techniques to shaping that you did before you added the corners. A series of micro adjustments to help define the cube shape. Never applying so much heat that the bead becomes molten, just enough so that it's pliable. All of the adjustments are very delicate, tiny micro movements of the glass. We're getting there. I like to use my torch marber to create the 90-degree edges of the cube by gently pressing each one. This is really the best way to create the edges. Gently, gently. Because I added dots to the corners, this method only works for cased cubes or for cubes that you're going to form and then decorate after they're formed. And just keep marvering, pressing, and adjusting until the cube is as square as you can get it. A cube is never going to have sharp corners, but you wouldn't want that anyway. Cubes are challenging, but they're a lot of fun to make. Cubes are also a great exercise in heat control, so that you really learn how the glass works and how to make the glass do what you want it to do. So now you're going to just do your final shaping, just little micro movements to see if you can crisp up the design a little bit. Give it a little bit of insurance heat. A couple of more taps with the parallel mashers. That's about as square as it's going to get. And there you have a cube. I hope you've enjoyed watching this, and I hope you'll go make some cubes.